This is the Outliers Edge podcast, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity by taking them to the edge of their comfort zone so that they can lead us to the edge of what's next. I'm your host, Niiamah Ashong. Let's do this. Hello there. I'm Niiamah Ashong, founder of Outliers Edge, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. I'm really excited today because we're going to have another conversation that really will explore the edges of what it takes or what we have available to us as we are moving forward and really pushing the edge and boundaries of what we can do as people in the world and as leaders in the world. Today, I am joined by an amazing leader, an amazing outlier, Zibby Owens. And I'm going to let you know a little bit about Zibby in terms of the external parts. And then Zibby, afterwards, I'd love to go a little bit and give you some chance to let us know what we're missing in terms of the fullness of you. All right. So Zibby Owens is the creator and host of award-winning podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, one of Oprah.com's favorite book podcasts 2 years in a row. The CEO and founder of Moms Don't Have Time to, Zibby has formed a media company that includes multiple podcasts, publications like Moms Don't Have Time to Write, and other communities designed to help moms. She's the editor of award-winning anthology, Moms Don't Have Time to, a quarantine anthology, the upcoming anthology, Moms Don't Have Time to Have Kids, the upcoming children's book, Princess Charming, and the upcoming memoir, The Book Messenger. She's a regular contributor to Good Morning America online and also writes for the Washington Post, Parents, Slate, and Medium, where she is a top writer. Zibby regularly recommends books on TV and has been featured on CBS This Morning and Good Morning America. Named NYC's most powerful bookfluencer by New York Magazine's Vulture, Zibby currently lives in New York with her husband and 4 children. She always has a book nearby. Zibby, I'm really glad that we're in this conversation. I love to read out how the external parts are generally, but I would love to get a chance to see more of you and the fullness of you outside of what we've read here. Can you let us know more about who you are?
Well, first of all, I need to know where you got the bio because I forgot to update that one, wherever it came from. So you have to tell me so I can update it. But Moms Don't Have Time to Have Kids did come out already. It came out in November. And I changed the title of my upcoming memoir to Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature. So anyway, everything else is pretty much the same. What's not there? Oh my gosh. I mean, I work really hard. I'm really open and honest and authentic in what I do. I don't try to hide anything. I never claim to have it all figured out, and I tell it like it is. So that's kind of me.
All right, great. Let's play with that. I love this here, and thank you for thanks for letting me know. Like, let's make sure that we have the right information. The book has come out, and what's the name of the memoir now?
The memoir is Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature. And since then, I don't know that this was there, but I started a publishing company called Zibby Books, where we publish 12 books a year in memoir and fiction.
So I'm really curious. I came into this conversation with curiosity. Zibby Books, like, it feels like you've accomplished a lot of things. Like, you're out in the world and you're doing things. And then you started Zibby Books. And I would love to understand, like, what was the motivation for that? Like, what led you to bring that to life?
I don't know. It was probably a huge mistake.
as most of the best things are, right?
Oh my gosh, I have no time for this. Well, I started my podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, in 2018, and I've talked to over 900 authors, and every conversation I learn a little bit more about the publishing industry. I've gotten to know it through all the books I've been pitched. I pick books for different publications. So I've really gotten to know some of the pros and cons of the publishing industry, especially in the publications of my own books, my 2 anthologies, and now the children's book and the memoir coming up. So I felt like I really had this great vantage point of what was working and what wasn't working. And there was a lot of communal kind of griping and wishing that the industry could change and pivot. And during the pandemic, well, I guess we're still in the pandemic. This is crazy. But in 2020, when our first lockdown started, it became obvious to me that the size of the existing publishing companies prohibited them from sort of reacting quickly and doing things that I could do much more easily with my little podcast, right? I could start an Instagram live show. I could interview 5 authors a day every day. I could do a daily podcast, and I didn't have to wait. There was no bureaucracy. So that was my first taste of doing things differently in this industry. And then I just kept building on that as things progressed. When last year, right around this time last year, I thought about starting an imprint under a different publishing house. And I thought, well, that could be a good way to start because I really don't know what I'm doing. So I could just do it under a company's umbrella. But then I couldn't make the kinds of changes that I was hoping to make. So right before that press release went out, I decided not to do it and that I would wait. And then about 6 months later, this idea wouldn't stop nagging at me. And I don't know. I just thought it was time. I was ready to do it. And I called Lee Newman, who I had worked with on the fellowship that I had been running. And I was like, Lee, leave your job. Let's do this. And she was like, okay. So the two of us put our heads together and brainstormed everything. And she was actually in Paris and I was in New York. And we had these late night brainstorms with her with no air conditioning in the summer in Paris. And I don't know. It was very fun and bonding, and I do things really quickly, and we just did it. And we just announced our 10th book acquisition today, and our books will start coming out in January of 2023. But I am excited in how we're doing it. I'm excited that we are doing things differently from first of all, and I started off telling you how important community is, but particularly among our writers and our team. So the authors in a lot of houses don't even meet. The publishers don't introduce their writers to each other. And I thought that was such a missed opportunity. I was going around introducing myself to other authors under my same imprints for my books. So the first thing we're doing is just getting our authors together constantly on Zooms together in all these ways that they have emotional connections, but then also financial connections. So we're doing a profit sharing model so that if one book is an outsized hit, everybody shares in the proceeds. And that's over and above a traditional model of royalties and author advances that still stays the same. And we're using women in all communities who want to be our ambassadors to help get the word out. We have partnered with a traditional distributor called Two Rivers, but our ambassadors are going to help. We have an author advisory board. We have a bookseller advisory board. We're working closely with the indie bookstores. And I have a campaign going on now called #22 and 22 to encourage people to visit 22 bookstores in 2022. And yeah, it just seemed like it was the right time. And we're doing lots of other interesting things, some of which have been announced, some of which haven't been announced, but I'm excited. It's just a lot more work than I thought. So
that's tremendous. As you say, I can feel it. What's really wonderful is you're and there's even more coming. Oh, yeah. Here goes everything that we're talking about right now. It's been about a year in the making. Am I getting this right here? About early
6 months.
6 months in the making, right? 6 months. And you said we're going with it. I want to do something really quickly. Zibby, you mentioned the word imprint before. I don't have a publishing background, so I just want to understand, what does an imprint mean?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I should have explained that. So an imprint is a book company underneath a larger umbrella.
Okay.
So some people could have the Pam. Well, actually, is that an imprint? There's some small imprints are underneath the larger publishing umbrella versus a complete independent publishing company.
Understood.
It's a division instead of the entity itself.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. You mentioned a few different times. I was like, oh, I need to make sure.
No, I'm glad you asked. I should have explained.
Yeah, no, I feel your energy coming through. kudos to you on saying yes. And it is really one of those things where it's like, it feels like you jump in, you brainstorm, you jump in, you're like, okay, we're going to do it. And then it continues to have life on top of all of that. And I'm glad to hear that it's growing, that it's exciting you here. I want to explore a little bit more on like a couple different edges and different angles around this here. I'm going to come back to Zibby Books and everything that's taking place with that. I want to go to, I guess, sometime in 2018 or like late 2017, right? So I'm meeting you now. You're talking here. You've interviewed like 900 authors. You have all these different things going on, and I'm kind of curious about like what life was like for you, like the day before you started this journey, or the day before you jumped in here. I'm curious about who you were before you are who you are now.
Well, that is a great question. Thank you for asking. I know, it's so funny. I thought I was stressed then, and like, it's so funny.
Yeah.
So to back up, I got divorced in 2016. I have 4 kids. And for the first time in years, I had spare time, and I could fill it with reading, which was one of my lifelong passions, and writing, also a lifelong passion. And I started writing essays, and I was particularly frustrated by how much mothers were required to do. Because when I had my kids, I was still so often distracted by all the things on the computer I had to do just to have kids, right? There's so much busy work and forms and emails, and having one kid is like X emails, and then having 4 kids, I was getting 4X emails, and just so much to do that I couldn't just sit on the floor and play with my little guys when I wanted to. And it didn't seem fair. And my last straw was when the preschool teacher asked everybody to bring in like empty toilet paper rolls the next day. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to pull all the toilet paper off all these rolls? No, I'm like, I can't. I'm not. And so I wrote this essay called A Mother's Right to Sanity, and I published it in HuffPost, and it went mildly viral. I don't know how you define that, but I had like 65,000 reads overnight. And it encouraged me to keep writing, and to keep writing on this theme, which I had been really focused on. So I started doing a whole series of essays about modern motherhood, essentially, and what my lived experience was like. And essays like Too Lucky to Cry on Easter, where I'm like, how can I sit here and cry in the bathroom when I have such a nice life? And what's wrong with me? And and why do I have to be my kid's executive assistant? Why do they have an executive? Like, so some were funny, kids sleep, all this kind of stuff. And in that time, I also fell in love and eventually married my new husband, or not new anymore. Now we've been married for 5 years, but he one night said, after years of my writing these essays, you should really take all these essays and put them in a book. And I said, Mom's no time to read books. And then I thought, oh, that's so funny. That'll be the title of my book. Anyway, long story short, publishing people didn't find that funny. A friend suggested I start a podcast, and I used that as the name of my podcast. The answer to what my life was like before was, I thought I was really busy. I'm somebody who's always really busy. I don't do well not doing something. So whatever I'm doing, I throw myself into it like 1,000%. So I was on, and I mean, I still am on some nonprofit boards, but I was like really into those boards. I was really into the kids, and I didn't miss an activity, and I made that my job. Like, I wasn't going to miss a thing. I also had been running a crumb cake business, because my husband, when I met him, his mom and grandmother were trying to start up this company, and I went to business school, and I was like, oh, I can totally help you with that. So I was running this crumb cake business, and had done all the branding for it, and helped with distribution and everything. So I had been doing that, and that was exciting and fun. But I had recently put that aside and given it back to his mom, now that I had gotten it started up, because I really enjoy the startup phase of things much more than the running phase, which I think is why I keep starting things up and then moving on and starting something new. I love like making logos and seeing what's there, and I don't know. So my life was filled with drop-offs and pickups and kids activities, and calls with distributors, food distributors, and stuff for the crumb cake business, and And yeah, I was really putting my life back together again after my last marriage had ended.
And so I'm seeing here, and I told you before we started, I'm like, I really want to use this time to really get to know you. And there's some things that I appreciate being able to see some elements that seem to show up in 2016, 2021, 2022 right now. But the elements of you're someone who like throws yourself into something when you go in. And I don't know, I get not just passion, but like dedication. Like it feels that like at least from the way that I'm experiencing you, when you decide to do it, like you're involved, you're coming up with ideas, you're in leadership around it. And at the same time, like if you need to go and find like all the different like toilet rolls in the house, like like it's gonna happen. I'm seeing a bit, so it's interesting to me because as you say that, there's a part of me that like isn't surprised in some sense that that you started a podcast, that we have like that you've written a book, you've done all these different things here, and now Zibby Books is coming. I'm like, oh, okay, it seems to make sense given like what you've shared here. And I know that we're human, and I feel like on one side it seems like, okay, this is just like a super powered person who can just like go through everything in life and just like all like just make things come to life. What would I be missing if I just like continue to stay with that assumption? What is the part there that I would have missed about you, or what it took to be you here? That I may accidentally over platform or over glorify.
These are very interesting questions. Um, I am a superpowered person. I like the way you said that.
Yeah,
And I
let's
do,
call that out. Let's own
I,
that. You are that. So let's have that be there.
I also, and you're right, I do throw myself into everything. I mean, like back in 2003, I went to Weight Watchers a few times and I was like, "Ooh, this is good. I like this." And I got so into it. I lost all this weight and then I decided I wanted to be a leader. And so I was a receptionist and then I like worked my way up and next thing you know, I was like leading meetings for Weight Watchers all over the city, getting all my friends to join and everything. So yes, I am like a bit of this like Pied Piper for things that I care about. What would you be missing? What you would be missing is that when I'm doing things, I'm doing one thing at a time intentionally. So I'm very focused in the moment on whatever it is. I'm not, it might seem like I'm really distracted doing one thing and the other and da 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 and going fast, but it's more that it's this intensive focus. Um, and then I move on. The other thing you might not know is, I don't really know when to stop. I'm not good at stopping myself, and I will literally like work myself into the ground, which I basically did last year. I did 450 podcast episodes of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Plus, I have this other podcast called Sex Talk with Zibby and Tracy, and I launched all these things, and I was running a startup and still dealing with my kids and my husband and pickups and drop-offs and by Christmas break, I mean, I was a mess. I had gained 20 pounds. I was like, I was not healthy. And it took finally getting a break and, some health stuff to make me be like, okay, this was too much. So I have to work against my sort of compulsion to work, and remind myself to slow down. And that's hard for me.
I am really grateful that you bring this in here, because what I'm hearing from you is an element of like you have these strengths, and there's also I call it like the dark side of the strengths. I'm very strength oriented. I'm like, do more of what works for you, and I think that's like, as I'm hearing here, I'm like, oh yeah, Zibby like figured out like what works for her, and she does it, and and she allows that to come through. And it's important to me. I think just the work that I do, I tend to find what's great about people. And I think it's also, I think what often gets missed is like what it took for that to happen. What it took to cultivate that greatness. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I wonder what it's like to be around Zibby when she's like super focused, creating all these things, like
My
and what
husband would say not a good thing. That would, I don't think he would tell you to advise you to come close to me when I'm really focused on something, you know.
Yes, got you. And see, I think this is like this is the wholeness here. I think and generally speaking, when I think about continuing to push the edge, continuing to move things forward, it's like ultimately I find a lot of people who like share one system and say this is how it should be done. And I really love that. Like it feels like you know your system, you know how you get things done. It feels that it then gets you to a place where you're like, oh, this is what I signed up for. Okay, great. Like now let's keep going, but this is a lot right now. And I would love to just kind of can stay on the line of like the dark side of the strength, because oftentimes I'm out here trying to see how do we help you find what your strengths are. You know it, but you're also experiencing the dark side. You've accomplished so much, and you can get so many things done, one thing at a time, one focused thing at a time, moving it forward. But it also like it comes at a cost, it feels like, and or it can come at a cost. So I'm hearing 450 podcasts done like in a year, like, and at the same time with everything else going on, burnout that actually had like a physical impact on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm really curious here. Like you talked about, like it's difficult to slow down. I know that there's still other things going on, and you know, there's a lot that's happening right now. How have you changed, shaped either your life, your business, the way that you work with people, or get supported in order to actually like allow your strength to remain in the strength zone before it gets over to that dark side? How are you addressing it now? And this might be still a work in progress, but I am really curious about how you're going with it.
It is a work in progress. I actually like checked myself into this like health and wellness place for 2 nights. I canceled my planned vacation over Christmas and forced my husband to come with me. Such a trooper. And met with a whole series of experts to get advice. And I like having things quantified, like what is this measure? What is this health thing? What is this? And just to get a baseline. And then I met with sort of a series of experts 360 around the different areas of my life that I hadn't been sort of focusing on or doing well enough in. And I've given myself a year-long goal to kind of keep getting all the measures back where I want them. And I'm going to do that with like monthly checkups, check-ins, even on Zoom, things like that. My husband's helping me with like the health kick side of things, eating healthy, exercising again. You know, these things are not rocket science, but I just decided I didn't go to a doctor for like 2 years. I mean, I just wasn't prioritizing my health. So he is really helping. And you know, my mom and friends, and also I should say everybody in the world, because I post about all this stuff, and I wrote an essay on Medium in my Moms Don't Have Time to Write publication called I Overdid It, something like how relentless work masked my underlying anxiety or something like that. My husband's mother and grandmother passed away from COVID right, you know, towards the beginning, and I was in charge of his mother's care, and I just couldn't shake the fact that like maybe if I had done something different, she would have survived. And I'm coming to terms with that there really wasn't anything anybody could have done. But you know, there's just a lot, and there's a lot of stress, and when I'm stressed, I work. So and it's not work, it's so fun. Like I love what I'm doing. I get, you know, like you, I get to talk to people and delve into their inner psyches, and it's so fun, and read all these books because every podcast is about a book. So uh so anyway, I'm getting the support from like my Instagram community, who's really awesome, and the people who get my newsletter, and the people who read my columns. And so it's very I have all these people I don't even know being like, I don't know, like I'm here if you want to go for a walk, or I'm doing this workout. So I've now started doing these Peloton app workouts and sending the workouts to other people and having more accountability and community around it. So that's what I'm trying. But again, I mean, I did wake up at 3:45 this morning and couldn't sleep, so I worked for like 5 hours before I even had a cup of coffee. So, um, but I'm working on it. Work in progress.
I'm gonna breathe with you on this one here. I really just want to acknowledge you on this here. I think that let me just take a second in here because what you said has impacted me. I just want to just make sure I capture what the impact has been. 1 second. Yeah, Zibby, I think I want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you, and I also want to acknowledge your husband. Like, shout out to your husband here. It feels like he's showing up for you and is being an actual partner to you in a meaningful way here. And so I just like I'm feeling appreciation coming from you, and I just want to make sure that I give space to that. Like, it's not easy to do this alone, and it seems like you have really great support that's coming from him. I just want to just give a quick shout out to him.
That's true. I should be nicer.
Let me know. All like we should all be nicer here. But like, yeah. I'm thinking about me and my wife. I'm like, oh, she should listen. We should all listen to this podcast.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
how can I go out there and do this? But no, we're surrounded by great people who keep us going here and help make it out here. And I can feel some really positive energy towards him. So I want to make sure we call that out. You shared a lot of things here that you talked about, like diet and exercise and like going to the doctors, and you're like it seems so like I don't remember the exact words, but what came to me when you said that was like the concept of simple, or the distinction between simple and easy. It's like, yes, these are simple things. It's simple, like the remedy or the prescription or whatever it is a simple thing to do, but it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. Like, and I want to call that out because I think when I get caught in my own mental conversation here, especially when it comes to these simple things, it's recognizing the difficulty that's still involved with the simplest. I always say equals MC squared, simplest equation ever, super difficult to get to, and like even to wrap my head around it really fully, like I still don't have that capacity, you know. And so there's something in there where like I'm feeling you. I feel you on my end here, and I want to acknowledge you choosing to do the difficult, simple things. It may not be difficult for others, but like for you, let's just like, I just want to acknowledge the reality of it all.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also cool too, because I have this thing that I called bright spots. I have to come back to what book it was from. I think it was from Chip and Dan Heath. And I'll come back to what the actual book was in a bit. But they talk about this concept of bright spots. And a lot of time we'll look back and we'll try and see, like, here goes all the things that went wrong. Here goes the blind spots. This is what I didn't see coming. I should have seen that and such. But we don't. And we oftentimes like assess how we're progressing based on basically trying to analyze what went wrong and how do we make sure that doesn't happen again. But they talk about this concept called a bright spot, where it's like, actually, let's find out what went right. Like the things that were easy, the things that were simple, the things that gave us better results than we thought. And how did we create that? And can we do that again intentionally?
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that again intentionally? I'll be kind of curious for you, either through a story that you have or through some of the things that you're thinking about in your life and business here. Because I look at this here as like as outliers, we're all leading different things. Some of us have movement, some of us are working in corporate and we're leading our organizations. Some of us are entrepreneurs and we're doing other things as well. And there's just the business element and the life element. It's all the one thing that stays constant is you, the person that's in there. So I'm really curious about any things that have shown up as bright spots for you, or any kind of lessons that you've learned from like times where you're really proud of what got done, that you feel like, oh, we did this, and then we decided to actually like implement this and build something more around it.
There have been so many bright spots. I mean, I think that's why this is also consuming, and because it's so rewarding. I've loved getting to read great books and getting to know the authors. It's just been so interesting. I've learned so much about writing and story and people. And I think my own writing has gotten a lot better as a result. Um, yeah, I mean, one goal I'd always had is to sell a memoir, write a memoir, sell a memoir, publish it. And it's taken me a while, but finally now it'll come out when I'm 45. I'm 40. It'll be right before my 46th birthday. I've been trying to publish a memoir for like 20 years. So that's a bright spot. And
can I acknowledge you really quickly on that? Like, because we're going to see this is going to come out and it's going to maybe end up on like, as like, it took 20 years. This is 20 years in the making. This is 40 years in the making, for to be like as a true memoir here. Can I just like, kudos on actually getting that complete, and especially hearing everything else that you like, how you go about doing things when you have focus, how you get things done. Like, it doesn't feel like a small accomplishment to produce this here and to bring this out to life. So I just want to just acknowledge that, because it's been 20 years in the making at least, and so let's I want to just give breath to that really quickly.
Thank you. Yeah, in fact, part of the memoir was about all the times I tried to write a book that didn't sell. So I cover that because it was really hard to sell it, and I had a lot of things rejected, not that were written, but even proposals, and I would have to come back here and interview another author and be like, okay, like, is this ever going to happen for me? Like, maybe it's just not going to happen, But that's really the difference between people who get books eventually published. You just can't give up. Like, that's just, it doesn't make me any better of a writer. In fact, I'm probably worse than a lot of people, but I just couldn't give it up. I don't know why, but I just couldn't. So, so yes, thank you. I am excited about that. And I find bright spots every day when I hear from people about something helping them. Like last night, I was just feeling a little overwhelmed with COVID, and especially as a mom, and trying to figure out all the different schools and rules, and what do I do as a mom right now with Omicron everywhere, and what do I say yes to and no? And my kids are asking me, and I literally am like, you guys, I don't know either. Let's figure it out together, because there's no right answer, and it's not easy. So anyway, I just like posted, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to tell everybody that like I am struggling too. And I bet if I have a hard week, other people had a hard week. If I'm feeling this way, other people are feeling this way. So usually I would write about that, but I was like too tired last night. So I just like did a quick video. And then the bright spot for me is, I said to my husband right away, I was like, was that a total mistake? Like, maybe that was ridiculous. And he was like, no, just check. And I checked after 1 minute, and somebody's like, you are such a light. That just made my day. And I was like, okay, I reached one person. It was worth it. And even if nobody else comments, like, I've helped one person's life tonight by stopping for 1 minute and 27 seconds to record this and post it. So those kind of things really keep me going. People saying,
can I ask you about this and slow down a little bit on that one right there in particular?
Yeah.
Because like, again, as I'm listening, I can't help but like see like, oh, here goes some like secret sauces that is the not so secret salsa almost, right? And there's an element of that I get from you, Zibby, where it's like, you are really natural, and you said it right at the beginning of this conversation. I'm an open book. Like, you can ask me anything here. Like our interaction, the body language, everything here is just like, it's just be like, you're present in this moment here and allowing that to be out in the world. I feel like you live out loud in certain ways, right? And that, to me, if I was going to look at a bright spot, I'm like, that's something where you're saying back in 2016, you started writing about some things that were like griping you, and
I started in 1992.
Thank you.
I had my first essay published. I sold my first essay when I was 14 years old to 17 magazine. So, and that was a very deeply personal, essay about my body and weight and my parents' divorce. And I was a kid. So yeah, I've been doing this forever.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge that and call that out too, because these are the things where I love reading the bios. I love getting to know people and see like all like the superpower things that they're bringing out into the world. And it's also like, I also want to just take the time to acknowledge you've been working at this since at least 17, you know, and you're like, the first one there was a deeply personal essay that was submitted. So like, we're looking at this here, and nowadays they'll talk authenticity, they'll talk
I
vulnerability.
know. I'm like, I can't believe this is on trend now.
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing this forever. Yes, I say
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah. And I think that like that to me is part of the bright spot for me, where it's like you've been actually practicing this muscle that's a lot, that you can go to bed and share it in whatever way you need to get it, to express it. Sometimes, a lot of times it's writing, but like this time I'm going to express it via video. And it also feels like not only do you have the skill in it and have you built that up over time, but it connects with people. And you also seem to have like just a personal and professional like discipline or disposition. I'm not sure what it is, but you're like, I've reached one person, we're done. You know, it's not how many likes did this get, how many comments. It's like, I've reached one person. Okay, complete. You know, and so I there's certain elements in here that like that I just want to celebrate about you here, because it feels it feels like, how do I say it? I don't think it's ever easy for someone to be themselves, even when it looks that way, or it's like I can't help it or whatever it is. Like I think about, I'm like, wow, she lives life with a level of intensity that's here, and she doesn't back down from it. And that sounds great, but it also like it has things along with it. I'm thinking back, you said you're turning 46. That was like 30 years ago when you first submitted the first one. So that wasn't a world where people were sharing like that. That wasn't a world where you were patted on the back for sharing it. That wasn't a world where your friends and family like had other examples of anyone else doing this on any of I can't even say social media feeds, because there wasn't any of that, you know? And you showed up in that way. This is where like, I'm like, okay, you've always been an outlier, you know? And it's cool to see how that has continued to grow. It's cool. Like there was earlier in this conversation, I was like, yeah, this all feels natural. This all feels like, yeah, the next natural evolution, the next natural thing here. And you've given me a glimpse as to why, because it didn't happen overnight at all. It didn't happen 5 years ago. And I'm so glad you're like, if you think it happened in 2016, let's go back. Let's go back to where it really began. And even that you were writing beforehand, but like, let's go back to
That's
that.
true. My first book, I was 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first little stories. I don't know. Anyway, they're these little stories. Yeah.
Oh, and you have it around you?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I wanted to make sure we slow down on this here, because there is, for me, we are creators in the world in different ways. We create, and we're finding, and like I'm in a path where I'm finding my journey, my canvas, the way that it is. For me, it turns out it's conversations. I'm like, if I'm in a conversation, something great is happening. And as long as if I prepare myself, I don't need to prepare anything else. If I prepare myself and I'm willing to be in conversation and see the person that's in front of me, we can go and create some really great things together. And it's fun because I feel like I'm in my practice right now. Like there's going to be wonderful things that take place, and people might see it as something right here, but we're not done. This is why I love Outliers Edge. It's a bit of an oxymoron. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not actually true, because it's like, what is our edge? What is our limit? What is the boundary? And so far, like when I have these conversations, it's like, no, we really don't have any. There's always room for something else. And so I'm glad. I want to just like acknowledge your journey, like not first book, 9 years old, still around you, still with that there, you know, years of practice and showing up and sharing in a way that most other people may not think is acceptable, may not have necessarily been ready for, like all those things, and using that and continuing to build that up over decades, such that you can be a bookfluencer. You have all these other things that are going on for it. I just want to just really acknowledge you for the work that you have put in over your life to be the person that you are and to have what is coming to you right now. I really, really think it is tremendous.
Thank you. That's really nice.
Yeah.
You should be you should be a therapist. Why are you not a therapist? You are really good at analyzing people, obviously, and getting to the heart of what matters, and you're very insightful. I don't know. If you need another job, you know.
I appreciate it. I really do receive it. I have, for me, I end up, I'm a coach. I spend my time coaching people. And so I play with this with my clients and say, like, great, how do we help you see this? How do we help you own it? How do we help you leverage this? Like, you're working way too hard. I like to say, I like to do hard things the easy way. And the easy way is my way, you know, like, and so some people might think it's hard to do 900 podcasts in this amount of time. It's like, yes, but if you're doing it in a way that's not, and look, you put in the work, you said it, you talked about some of the costs that come from it, but you've also found ways that work for you. And that's, and I think that while I don't do therapy, I do look at it, and I do feel like there's a therapeutic element to what I do. I'm always just helping people just own who they are and bring that out in the world. And generally speaking, I'm like, I don't know. I just like, I see how great you are. How can we help bring that greatness up to whatever next level it is and have more people see it? So thank you for that reflection. I'm receiving that there. To me, it feels that this conversation was done in alignment and in integrity with what I show up for. As I'm saying, I'm figuring out some things as to how do I really want this thing to be? What is this conversation? And how do I make sure that it doesn't end up just being another podcast, another interview, another something, and instead has our own unique place in the world? I can't be a thing for outliers if I'm going to choose to be average about it myself. So I fully appreciate that recognition there. Let me just breathe in on that right there, because it's hitting me. Thank you. So Zibby, I feel like we're in good places here. Like, there's lots of other places I would love to explore, but I feel like this might be a great time for us to actually just start wrapping up the conversation, and taking a look to both the future for you, as well as how people can continue down this journey with you, how they can continue to stay in your world. I'm looking forward to staying in your world. And so let's start off here with end off here with a bit of your edge going forward, right? And so what I like to look at, one of the edges I like to look at are your advantages. The other edge I like to look at is like what feels like your limit, what feels like your boundary. Again, no, in tongue in cheek, like there may not be that. For what you have coming up, looking ahead, what feels like your edge that you're approaching? What edge are you excited to be approaching right now? Or if you're willing to go there, what edge like really scares you, like intimidates you, so on and so forth? I'm just wondering, like, I'm really curious about, as we look ahead for you, or maybe as you are right now, what's the edge that you're currently facing?
Well, I think, one edge is I guess getting through this year of really exciting things without getting totally overwhelmed. I have a children's book coming out in April 1st from Penguin Random House, and then the other memoir is coming out in July. Plus, I'm doing all these other things, and the challenge is focusing on the right things at the right time, getting it all in, and still being totally present and an awesome mom to my kids. And yeah, and trying to make sure that my publishing company is a success. I know the books are great. I'm so excited we're publishing them, but I have a
Congrats on
lot
your
of
10th acquisition today. Like, that's wonderful.
thanks. Yeah, I have a lot of hopes for it, and it's hard working. I can't do it alone. I'm used to like if I do things on my timeline, I just do them. But, I have to rely on my team, and I'm not always so good at that. So that's another sort of challenge I'm working on, like delegating and trusting and not I'm not like the best manager, I have to say. So
Maybe I was thinking literally right before this call, I wasn't thinking this about you. I was thinking about me. I'm like, it's time to go in and do some manager work here. Like I'm great at like leading is great, but managing is it's a different skill set.
mm-hmm.
It's a different skill set. And to the point now that I'm even thinking, it's interesting because as I say that out loud, I'm like, yeah, dude, maybe you need to find some other way, like someone else to do the managing so that you can keep doing the leading, because it's out of the skill sets that you've been building over the decades of your life, that is not one of them.
No, it's not. Yes.
Yeah.
I've told my team that.
Yeah.
They know that. I mean, so.
This one here goes out to all of our teams.
Yeah.
It's like one of the dark sides of like I consider, I'll look at myself as a visionary leader. That's how I'll describe myself. I'm a visionary leader.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, one of the dark sides of that strength is that like the ways that I manage my team or pull my teams in different directions can also have it can be a little chaotic neutral for them.
Yeah, I'm like, let's do this. Wait, this idea. We're meeting on this, but wait, what about that? So
yeah. I feel you. And I'm excited for how you continue to grow and leverage your bright spots and continue doing the things that come along your way for it. I'm wishing you tremendous success with this. Is there anything that, like, if anyone's listening to this now or in the future and they're looking to support this new venture of yours here, like, what's the best way that they can do it?
I guess follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens, because I post about everything all the time. Everything I'm doing is there in one place. My website is zibbyowens.com, although I'm gonna redo it soon, and zibbybooks.com, which I'm also redoing. And yeah, I guess Instagram is the best hub for everything.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a great place to get like real time. This is what's happening right now. This is where you are. This is how you're feeling. Hey, it's right before I go to bed. This needs to come out, And so you can be in there. Okay.
My father-in-law's like, don't you think maybe it's a little too much?
now, like you've been doing this for like,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I acknowledge you. I acknowledge you for being someone who has people ask that question, because you have shown in this conversation what most people might back away from, how just allowing that to be out in the world, or if it's naturally you, how that can continue to bring a lot of success with it here. So I acknowledge you. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we end this conversation here?
No, just thank you so much. This was such an unexpected deep dive into my psyche, and I feel like I've learned about myself and put things into context and think about things in a new way. So thank you.
Thank you, Zibby.
Ready to play at your edge? Come join us inside of the Outliers Edge multiverse, where you have the opportunity to come for 14 days and play in the sandbox of your unique leadership style and take everything about you to its next edge. Go to outliersedge.com/OE guest pass in order to receive your 2-week gift.